Bon dia, good morning. How are you? May I request you to stand up, please? Stretch. This is a long time. I think this is amazing that we've spent more than an hour, I think, listening to these really interesting remarks. And I'll try and be brief, but stretch. When you're ready, you may sit down. I have probably a dozen points to make. They are related to some of the things that you've already been talking about. But let me start by, and so these are slightly disconnected points. I think they make, to me, they are connected. As Valeria was saying, I'll just give you a brief sense of where I'm from and what I do, and then move to making these points. I want to talk about, the work that engages me these days, and what is the perspective in my role. We keep talking about these various sectors, but one of the hidden, invisible sectors is the academy. The academy is just a very special, invisible platform. That's the platform that I've been residing in for about 30 years now. I teach in a business school called INSEAD in France. I lived there in France for 30 years now. I was born and I grew up in India, and then I studied and worked in the United States for a long time. And then I was going back to India and stopped in France for a couple of years, which is now 30 years. And I'm still trying to go back to India, which I manage a few times a year. But France is a fantastic place. The United States is an amazing country, and India is a spectacular country. And I do think that Brazil, I always joke, if I were not born in India and I had to choose another country to be born in, I would choose Brazil. So thank you for having me here. And it's always a pleasure to be here. If you don't like what I'm saying, there's only one person on this panel you should blame, and that is Aldemir. He's the person who's responsible for my coming to Brazil and introducing me to Brazil, and we've done research together now for more than 23 years or so. I have known and worked with Aldemir. Brazil has taught me a lot in my academic research, but also about life and friendships. Okay, that's by way of background. Let me start by saying, the way, Saulo, I think about this, and I think I might have mentioned to you in one of our Zoom calls, is I think the earth is a fact, but the world is an idea. The earth is an astrophysical fact. And we think about the Big Bang, etc., and I'll come back to that Big Bang, but the world of which this human project, or the utopian pragmatism, or the pragmatic utopia, all of these are ideas. The world is an idea, which means that our world is endogenous, not exogenous. The earth is exogenous, is some kind of accident. And in a multiverse, maybe there was no earth. Maybe there are many earths, right? So that's exogenous. But the endogeneity, this is what, and it's a paradox. I think often we are living in the best of times and the worst of times. We are living in the best of times. We have AI, but we want BI, beneficial intelligence, not artificial intelligence. And we're trying to see how can we bridge that. And projects like this are really of that fundament, which is the belief in endogeneity. We can dream, and with some luck and a lot of effort, over a long time, we can deliver on that dream. That's what we see from our history. And the second point I want to make is, Saulo, you talk about the human project and you want to put humans at the center. I quite concur with that. But to me, at the center is humanity, not just humans. The Human Project is part of a philosophy that we call humanism. Humanism accepts the power of human beings. Humans are apparently in the top of the food chain for a variety of reasons, evolutionary reasons, ecological reasons, which means we have the power, including the power to destroy or the power to construct. And humans are doing both. The same humans are doing different things. So how do we then bend the arc of our evolution in a way that we will be satisfied, maybe even proud, and feel joy? Joy. You know, I think of this, Saulo, as a kind of JDPI, the joy of making a durable, positive impact. That is joy, is beyond pride, is not bliss. Joy comes from that kind of state that you've been able to make a durable, positive impact. Everyone who is present here, I think, would agree that this is a special thing. It was intentional, it was durable. So humanity, not just humans, which means nature, which means future. So the flora and fauna, we think we are Homo sapient, but of course with AI and singularity, maybe we will emphasize Homo sentience. We use our power to put kindness back in humankind, right? And that is humanity, humanism, to be humane. So this is the second point. Now, how does this kind of come about? And, you know, if we were to be more mundane about it, how do we think about the human project? So humanity, but then I come back to what you want to say, which is humans. What do humans want? And is it changing? Definitely it's changing. So our preferences are evolving. But at a fundamental, basic level, apparently what humans want everywhere, whether they are in North Korea or whether they are in Venezuela or in United States or Europe, apparently humans want two things: liberty and security. And from time to time, it seems we have to choose. In this moment, we are facing that choice. And so we're choosing, generally, Marco, we're choosing security. So defense spending is going up. Liberty is going down. Surveillance, muscular government, restrictions, border controls, home, no more outsourcing, insourcing, not just in time, just in case supply chains. All of these changes are happening because when security is threatened, liberty apparently is curtailed, and we give in to surveillance, everywhere cameras, in the name of security. Now, I do think that this is, it's a shame that we have to sometimes choose. We want and we should have both. But there is more than liberty and security, which is, I think, somehow humans also want community or connection and contribution. It's not just liberty and security. That seems like a consumer's paradise. I want to consume liberty and I want to feel secure. I don't know how it comes, but I want that. I was just in a conference in the United States last week. It was a strategy summit. Happens once every 30 years. All the strategy scholars in the world get together, and we were talking about the future of the field. And the panel I was on, my message to business was very simple. Business loves liberty. Transfer pricing, supply chains, AI, innovation, collecting data. They don't want governments to regulate any of this. Business loves liberty. Governments are responsible for security. You see the Brazilian flag, it has two words, order and progress. Order is the job of government. Progress is the rest of us. The private sector, the third sector, the academy, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I don't carry a gun. I'm not responsible for order. We have given the monopoly for order to this entity called the state. And they have a police, they have a military, they have surveillance, they can tax us, etc., etc. Okay, so I was saying to firms, if you want liberty, learn to contribute to security. Otherwise, you will have a muscular state coming in, regulating, and more rules, and more compliance, and then more restrictions, import bans, protectionism, etc., etc. No migration, you can't get talent where you want. So what is it, if we take liberty and security, community and contribution, we can go on. Humans really want a lot of things. What is it ultimately all of this is supposed to lead to? And I think you would agree that people, Natura had it right. When they made their motto in 1969, this company is founded by Luis Seabra, and Luis Seabra has this motto that Bem estar bem. Well-being well. Well-being and being well. 1969. Just around the same time, Osiris Silva is founding Embraer. Okay, these are two amazing Brazilian companies in the private sector, different, one more technology, one more about society, humanity, nature, etc. And today, the OECD and all the governments in the world are saying, yes, let's measure well-being. It's not wealth. For 200 years, we've been chasing wealth. But today, we want also well-being. And the question becomes, where does well-being come from, and what is the essence of well-being? So Luis Seabra had an answer, and his answer was, and the research today in social science as we have it, we have some good longitudinal data on how do you experience well-being in life. Firstly, well-being is auto-produced. It's not a commodity. You cannot, it's a chronic demand. Every day you have to produce well-being. It's auto-produced. There is no market for it. You cannot go to the hospital for well-being. Well-being is at home, is in the heart, is in the community. So Luis Seabra said, well-being is about relationships. So Valeria was saying, everything is interconnected. And in fact, the minute, Valeria, we decide to kind of pursue these things collectively, and we created society, this game of society that we're talking about, of which community is one variant, this game we started 10,000 years ago. Before that, 200,000 years ago of Homo sapiens, but 10,000 years ago we settle, create society, and we encounter a problem that stays with us. This is called the problem of interdependence. The minute we decide to come together and stay together, we are interdependent. What you do will affect me, what I do will affect you, and it's a chronic dilemma. And in order to address this problem of interdependence, because that's where the security problem is, that's where the liberty problem is, because we have to regulate this interdependence. And so relations are an amazing technology to regulate interdependence. Guns are one way, that is the power. I force you to behave in a certain way. Relations are another way of regulating interdependence. So Luis Seabra said, relationships are the key. And there are many relationships. First, the relationship with yourself. Second, with your family and community. Third, with nature. Fourth, with future. And fifth, with the past. These are 5 relationships that we have to regulate, that we have to invest in. So what does it take if relationships, and the Harvard longitudinal study on well-being establishes that the single most, so at 18, 90 years old, people are asked, how was your life? Would you like to repeat your life, or do you have regrets? And the people who say, my life went well, I would like to repeat this life, the key was not that they made a unicorn, they had patents, they won the Nobel Prize, or they had a CEO job at 35. The key to well-being was the people who said, I had social relationships. That's what causes well-being. That is the single most important. But what does it take to build those relationships? Time. So Saulo told us, and economists have accepted now, money may be the currency of the economy, time is the currency of life. Without relationships, and without time, we can't invest in, including with ourselves. I need me time. I need me time. If you want mental health, you have to have me time. You have to have social relations. So this is very, very important, I think. And I then had to write a paper, Saulo, a couple of years ago with somebody, a Russian woman and a Stanford sociologist, on what is time. There's a major puzzle in physics, and we know space, but time is a question mark. In the end of that paper, there's a short essay, but I think is an interesting essay, was for me a very great eye-opener. Time is energy. That's all. Remember, what is time? We start time from Big Bang. And so this Russian lady with whom I was writing this paper, she says, Subi, what is time before time? What was before the Big Bang? 14 billion years. We start time there. But surely you don't think there was nothing. There was. What was it? Energy. The Big Bang is just energy that explodes into matter, and we are all just that materialized energy. We are all just from that energy. And the thing is, the universe, the first law of thermodynamics, is always tending to entropy. The universe is tending to chaos. If you leave it alone, chaos. You need to invest energy to avoid, avert, and make those fruitful deviations. That's the exertion of effort. And that exertion of effort has to be, somewhat sensible, coherent. And community is that logic. Social relationships are that technology of bringing coherence to my effort, your effort, my intention. And if we don't have that, so, we think about how do we achieve this? So humanity wants liberty, security, maybe prosperity, so many things. How do we kind of make this work? So I think about a big airplane with 8 billion people. Now, a big airplane, 8 billion people who want to go to a better future, more sustainable, etc., etc. How many engines should a big airplane have? At least 2. And today we have 2 big engines for the airplane called humanity. One engine is business, and the other engine is government. These are the 2 engines on which we think we're going to take humanity. Both of those engines are wobbling. Trust in government has gone down for good reason. Trust in business is going down, again, maybe for good reason. A big airplane like that needs at least 4 engines. There are 2 missing engines. Business, government, okay, nice, necessary, but not sufficient. We also need family and community. Without these 2, and mind you, Saulo, there are 1 million business schools in the world, schools of business, and there are at least a few thousand schools of government. I've never seen a school of community or a school of family. We need that technology. We need family science and community science. It's not too late. Because community is a very special technology. It's a very special technology, right? And, community will allow us to go off-grid. We're thinking about the energy transition. We want off-grid. Community, and especially the kind of things that you're doing, that's magical. That's magical. It is a social technology government is supposed to take care of those public goods. Business is supposed to take care of private goods. Community produces collective goods. They are not private and they are not public. They are collective. Security in my neighborhood, homelessness, working schools, a working infrastructure, a healthcare system or a school system that works. These are collective goods. They're not public goods. They're not private goods. They're collective goods. We need, it's called instrument design. One goal, one instrument. And we need this technology. What does the research show? Firstly, if we look at where do we have these collective goods reliably produced, so the OECD has been measuring well-being starting 2013. So GDP was measured for now 100 years, but well-being, after the Sarkozy Commission of 2009, with Joe Stiglitz, Amartya Sen, etc., they created the, if you want to see this, and I know we have another panel on measurement, but they wrote a wonderful little book called Mismeasuring Our Lives. What is the point of life? What do we want? And then they said it's beyond GDP, it's well-being. And then they started measuring well-being across 35 countries, etc. Now, who does well? Every 2 years, the OECD publishes this Well-Being Better Life Index. They produced maybe 6 reports until now. Every time, it's always the same countries on top. Who is that? The Nordics. And what's common in the Nordics? They have communities that work. Now, Bob Putnam, as you know, wrote a book 25, 30 years ago called Bowling Alone, and how communities in the United States are declining, and how life in the United States feels very anxious. Okay? Bowling Alone confirms that groups, so he did a study in Italy, and he said, Italy is a strange place, let's study Italy. It's not really a country, it's a bunch of communities. And it's very heterogeneous social outcomes. The leading indicator of a good community where the post worked, the health system worked, the education worked, the security worked, etc., were where there were more groups, period. He had a raw measure, just the number of groups. They could be knitting groups, cooking groups, choir groups, church groups, any coming together. This relational technology has information benefits. It has, there's a lot of theory on why communities work, sociological theory. We just haven't really incorporated that into our practice. Okay, there's another book I want to be on, Bob Putnam. There's a guy some of you may have heard of called Albert Hirschman. Has anybody heard of Albert Hirschman? Al Hirschman? No? Who? Where? So Al Hirschman was an economist. He was a development economist. And he wrote many amazing books, but his most famous book, he's now dead, he died recently, maybe 5, 7 years ago, but Al Hirschman wrote a book called Exit, Voice, Loyalty. And the point of the book is he went to Nigeria. The Nigerian government invited him to say, we want to develop, your Harvard economists, come and tell us what you think we can do. So he went to the Ministry of Transportation, and in the Ministry of Transportation, he saw the bus system was so bad. He goes to the minister, and the minister says, what are you talking about? Look at my complaint ledger. There are no complaints. How can you say it's so bad? So Al Hirschman was really puzzled. It's so bad, and yet there are no complaints. And what he found was the office workers, they had privatized. They had what were called minivans, private like an Uber. They did not wait. Only the poor people waited for the bus, but they did not know they could go and complain. So he says the people who could actually tell you your quality is declining, they will exit if they can. The Indians who are smart, they will leave India. They will not go and fight for a better India. He says the only thing is, if they have loyalty, then your customers or your clients will not exit. They will actually use voice to tell you, hey, you're failing. This is not working. Community is the way of creating that loyalty so that the voice comes back, so that it's self-repairing. Otherwise, we have failure, but nobody knows. The people in power kind of say, hey, no, I should be working because I'm re-elected. And yet people are leaving. This is adverse selection. And what you're doing is really a way to address that. I think it's extremely powerful. Finally, so where am I? Are you following me so far? So community, right. Again, sorry about being disjointed. So Marco, I was doing some project in Abu Dhabi, and they are creating family science and community science because they know fertility is declining everywhere, including in Abu Dhabi, in Brazil, in China, in India. So they have a very, without a population, you don't have an economy, you don't have a military. It's a very, very huge challenge. But 90% of the population in the UAE is foreign population, immigration. 90%. No other country comes close where 90% is foreign born. And so they know they have to create cohesive families and vibrant communities. Now, I was working with them and I said, so what is a place? What do we want in a place? I called it, Saulo, salsa. Stability, ability, livability, sustainability, and accountability. If you have working communities, you get salsa. Security or stability, ability, education, livability, infrastructure that works, parks, clean air, water. Without running water, there is no livability. I mean, you cannot imagine, without basic elder care, child care, there is no livability. So without salsa, so I think, again, that's the utopia. It's just salsa. It's not more than that, but it's simple, but it's not easy, as you know. And it is exactly that kind of organic tree with the roots and the branches. I think we need designs like that. We need thinking like that. Okay, I'm almost done, okay? And I think, again, in terms of design, we have these public-private collective goods. And I do think we need organizations like yours and all the others and the offspring, so to speak, and the spin-offs from those kinds of organizations. And I think Valeria said it beautifully as to how enterprises can support. I have many, many examples of enterprises that are working with communities, either on the supply side or on the demand side, not only on the financial support side, which is also important. So I won't go into that, but definitely there is a role for the private sector. This is what I do. I work with companies, and I don't directly work with communities as you do, Saulo, but I think about these design issues. And so that's where I'd like to end, is essentially, if you think of a design, Alamir showed those 5 countries. But there's a different design across those countries. So I want you to imagine 2 axes. On the one axis, I want you to imagine by. By the people or by the state. On the other axis, I want you to imagine for. For the people or for the collective. Okay? You have it? By the people or by the state. For the people or for the collective. The by the people, for the people is a model we call liberal. That's the United States. All the Anglo countries in the world, Australia, Canada, UK, New Zealand, USA, they have all chosen the liberal model, by the people, for the people. Then we have an even bigger choice, which is by the state, for the people. That's called the statist model. Brazil is a statist model. France is the epitome of the statist model. Singapore, statist. Italy, Greece, India, statist. The government will do everything for the people. Education, security, infrastructure, retirement, social security. On the Northwest, by the people, for the collective is a third model, is a relatively smaller model called corporatist. By the people, for the collective. Who is corporatist? The Nordic countries. Germany, corporatist. By the people, for the collective. And then we have the Northeast, which is by the state, for the collective, today epitomized by China. The state will do for the collective. It's not for the people, it's for the Chinese. There is no individual there. You're just a number with a social score, and we will decide. The CCP will decide what is good, how much to pay, etc., etc. The project you're doing is moving us closer to the corporatist, by the people, for the collective. And of course, notice hiding in plain sight. We have people, we have government, by the people, by the government, but we need enterprise. Enterprise is hiding in the middle. Enterprise can really do stuff not only for the people, not only for enterprise, but also for the collective. And this is the research I do, this is the research I work on. How do we evolve the economic paradigm in that direction? I'm hopeful. Every company that I work with wants to move in that direction. But I think creating this ecosystem, we need to connect these dots because private goods, public goods, and collective goods are different. And the academy has a huge role to play because we are really, A, shaping the paradigm, and B, through education. So education is the only technology I really believe in. But that education cannot just be cognitive skills. It has to include non-cognitive skills. There are thousands of non-cognitive skills. But the top non-cognitive skills, I put 5, Saulo. Number 1 is energy. You know, they say there are 2 kinds of people. Those who bring joy wherever they go, and those who bring joy whenever they go. We know which kind Saulo is, okay? And it's a habit. It's a practice. Remember, we are nothing but embodied energy. How do you want to project that energy? Will your life have meaning? Consumption will give you pleasure. In this mall, it should be open by the time we have lunch. All the shops, whether it is Prada or whether it is, some other fancy shop, consuming will give us pleasure. It will never give us meaning. Only production, using your energy to make a durable, positive impact for somebody or something outside you will give you meaning. That's well-being. So first non-cognitive skill, energy. And we need to teach people how to, A, create your energy, reproduce your energy, and apply that energy for something meaningful. Your life will be amazing. Second, relationships. Relationships are a non-cognitive skill. Most people are not trained in relationships. How do you build relationships? I met Saulo's friends now last night. We had dinner. And I said, wow, he has magic. When you have good relationships, think about China, USA. If that relationship is not healed, it's going to be really problematic. Russia, Europe. If that relationship, can you imagine if Europe did not forgive Germany, and if that relationship was not healed, what would Europe be? So relationships are superpower, but it's a non-cognitive skill. We need to work on that. Okay? Third, caring. If we don't care, not only about what's in front of us, but as you said, non-relational caring. The future, the child in Afghanistan or Mexico or Venezuela or Brazil or India. So caring is a third non-cognitive skill. So I teach a class now in my MBA program at INSEAD. I tell the students, Edson, MBA, Master of Better Alternatives, not Business Administration, Master of Better Alternatives. So I teach a class called Integrating Performance and Progress. We started a new class called C2C, Choosing to Care and Caring to Choose. You chose eyes, vision. Okay, you care, and you've chosen one area. It's just incredible what he's doing with vision. Somebody might choose gender parity. Apple is choosing child pornography. You've got to choose one thing at least. And for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, Saulo has chosen communities. Okay, so caring is a non-cognitive skill. We can teach caring. Fourth, hunger. If you're not hungry, if you don't bring that energy, they say, Edson, managers get things done. Leaders make things happen. Okay? Managers get things done. Leaders make things happen. You got to be hungry for that. Otherwise, we don't need 100% of all people, but we do need at least 5, 10% to say, I want to make things happen because I care, because I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to fail publicly. I'm willing to be criticized or even mocked. Elon Musk, he's a crazy guy, but I think he has some of those characteristics. Finally, the most important non-cognitive skill we're trying to teach executives and students at INSEAD is courage. We teach a lot of power, but the problem in the world is not power. The problem in the world is courage. Basically, business school is about, all schools are about competence. What we're developing a curriculum for is character. We're saying our constraint is not competence, our constraint is character. And character is about caring, commitment, courage, etc. So, thank you very much. Thank you, Saba.